Okay, we're live.
Okay.
Cool.
Woohoo! Well, I had fun looking at all of your guys' portfolios. Thought they were all really cool to look at.
They are. Much longer than mine. They were done so well. I was like, holy cow.
Should we?
I'm still getting over to it. My computer seems slow.
Who should we pick on first?
It does not matter to me.
How about we'll pick on Sierra first?
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's see. Let me get my notes. It was a really interesting assignment for me, just so you guys know, for doing this in early childhood and interviewing the parents for this, they were like, what? But luckily the mom was a teacher, so she was like totally on board. But it was interesting to try to talk about these skills in a way that was like appropriate, but also like long term as far as helping their child. It was kind of unique. I didn't know if I was like on the right track or not. I was like, I don't know if I'm like doing the right things, but we'll get there.
Well, I thought yours was really descriptive, right, which I really liked. Let me see really fast. I really like how you had like safety concerns at the end. Like if I didn't know her, Willow is a girl, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if I didn't know her, I really liked how descriptive you were with the safety concerns. I think that would be really important to know.
I feel like there was a lot of information, and I love how you broke it down into different. I know that's what we were supposed to do, but I love that you used technology, and then you went into different things that she can do with music, and I love seeing all of the different ways she can do things in addition to what she can do.
Cool.
I can't really see anything that you should change. Like I thought it looked really professional and really good when I looked at it.
You guys feel like there was something you would really want to know about her that I maybe didn't include?
I'm looking at it really fast.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. The only thing I saw was no pictures. And a lot of us don't have permission to have the pictures of the thing, but that was the only thing. I think that it was done. It looks very professional. It's very well written. It's very informative. And I think that you are in a tough spot because you're dealing with kids that are so young that it's hard.
Yeah. No, I think that's when I had first created this, I was nervous to use pictures of her, just for the fact of not knowing this program and where this folder would go. So I think that's a good thing. But I didn't use any other pictures either. I think I used like one picture and then I put in Gabanzo because she goes crazy for Gabanzo. But
that's funny.
I could put in other pictures.
And I changed my kid's name, so I wasn't comfortable using her name, so I changed it. So
yeah, I did that with mine also.
Oh, I just kept the first name, but not the last name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my family.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I told the student that I was working with, I told her that this is one of the things we were doing, and I asked her if it was okay if I did this with her because she's 16, and she's like, "That's the only picture you could find of me, really."
It's a good picture of her. It's really cute.
It is so Cute.
Yeah.
And, so she, she signed off on it and was okay with it. And I thought that was really cool because she doesn't know I'm asking her to do one next year for her IEP. So
That's awesome.
but, yeah.
What a cool way to
So
Well-
I don't. Sorry.
But yeah, I think overall it looks really good to turn in. So.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I've had
I
this student
do.
for 3 years, so I feel like I could go on for days about her. So I was like, trying to figure out like their really specific skills because she was my first student that I received when I was working in like the first special education student I've ever worked with. And she's been a really interesting nut to crack. And so, especially having no experience. So I feel like I could go on and on, but I tried to pick out like important things and utilize like what I think would be beneficial to a teacher. I do think like this was a really cool, interesting activity, and it was the wide perception of like everybody I was talking to. They're like, "Why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense for your age. That doesn't make any sense for your age." But I was thinking back in my shoes when I first got her into my classroom. Like, I would have loved something like this. Like it would have been so
Right.
helpful.
Right, exactly.
Her. Like I was just laughing because like literally if you tell her, you give her directions, she doesn't want to do them. But if you see the directions to her, she's like all in and on board. So, but like when I first started, I was like, I am not singing everything that we're doing. Like I'm just not gonna sing everything. Like that's not who I am. But I found out like that's the only way I'm gonna get her to do anything. So I literally just sing all day long when I need her to do something, and it works. But
That's how I'm going to be from here on out.
yeah. And it's just like one of those things where I was like, everybody was like, that's silly that you're doing that. That's silly you're doing that. And then I think it would be very beneficial for all ages.
Sometimes we have to do silly things to get the job done, so
That's true.
that is okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Hillary.
Alrighty.
You're next.
So mine was 16. It's interesting to get a things and about any of her didn't know any of her. She didn't, know her disability. She didn't know any of her accommodations, and I thought that was kind of so. Thing to be able to write this with her and kind of have her input as to why do something, or this is coming up really weird on my computer. I don't know why the words are all weird.
Oh,
But it's.
I've looked at that, and it's if you're looking at it through Google, Google
Yeah.
the PowerPoint, but it won't download the fonts. So the font that you were using was like a narrower font. So if you open it, if you open it actually on PowerPoint, it'll be right. But if you open it in Google Drive, the letters will be wider and wide.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why like your titles are like behind the pictures and stuff like that. So because I noticed it wasn't displaying the fonts correctly on mine, and I kind of wondered if that was the problem with yours. So I went and downloaded it and opened it on PowerPoint, and then I could see the way that you had wanted it to be.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, that's Google and PowerPoint.
That freaked me out. I'm like,
That's
oh
good.
no.
That's good to know for future. Yeah.
That's really good to know. So I got to interview her when we were talking about like, her favorite things and the rest of these things. I actually got to sit down and interview her and go through her experiences and what she likes. And that was really awesome because like she could tell her story through me. I had a much easier time. And then I got to add the things, like the anxiety and the she really struggles with short-term memory loss, like percentile struggles, and so it's terrible. I play with her. She's also like my foster child. So, which is another reason that I know her so well and why I picked her. I tease her because I have short-term memory loss as well, and so we tease each other about being Dory. So, and kind of fun. You make it less scary. That's been instrumental in getting her to be progressive with what she's doing. So,
Mm-hmm. That's really
I love
cool.
that she's like 4'10", and
wow.
Yeah, she weighs maybe 105 pounds, and she wants to either do hair or be a mechanic. I love it. So I'm like, right up. I'd like to get you your first set of tools because I would love to see her work on cars. But, yeah. So what are your critiques?
Let's see.
The one thing I have to say I really like that you did is I love that you put the definition of her diagnosis in there, because I feel like there's so many things that we don't know. That was a really clear way to be like, okay, like this, and this, like whatever, she is individually. But it was a nice overview to start the like, okay, this is what you need to know right off the bat. Like this is what this is. So I thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
It was really helpful.
That came from her not knowing what it meant. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to look it up. So
it's amazing how many of our kids don't know like what an IEP is, like they don't even know that they have one. So that's cool. You got to go over that with her.
Yeah. And that, like, I feel like I really lucked out because it was like I got to teach her while we were doing it. And there's this thing that we have because she has really bad anxiety. And there's this like quote or whatever it says, if you can take anxiety out and see what it looks like, it's a little less scary than it was before. And so this was such a great coping tool for her that I saw results that extended for a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, where she's like, I can do this. I can do this. And this I think changes a perception of special education for kids. So, oh my gosh, somebody has guinea pigs.
Yeah. Quite a few.
Who has the guinea pigs?
Oh, we have 4-H kids, so there's lots of guinea pigs.
Cute.
Nice. That's awesome. Let's see.
The one thing that I kind of noticed with yours, Hillary, though, that is there's a lot of like there's the definition, but there's also just like a lot of like technical stuff in there.
Right.
And just kind of like from my perspective on the whole thing is that it wasn't so much like a supplement or like taking the place of the IEP, but just kind of like adding that other like personal dimension to the IEP. Because I mean, you can look at the IEP and see like goals and percentages and stuff.
Right.
And I kind of my take at least on the portfolio was kind of looking at the person behind all of that. Because you'll always have the IEP, that's kind of like the legal document, but just kind of getting to know the person beyond that. I think it would be like the one kind of input that I would have. If you took out the percentages and just worded it in a way that this person might say it for themselves, then just to kind of simplify the language, because I mean, like I said, the teacher's going to have the IEP, and so they can look at the percentages and the goals, but kind of think about it in the way that your student would be able to think about it and advocate for what they can do and what they're working on, that kind of thing. And that's just my perspective on it. That's kind of like my approach to it. but take that for what it's worth.
No, I agree. I like the idea that we had to have one goal in there.
Yeah.
With what we were working on, and so I just thought that, and part of this with that goal was showing her what that meant, and so through it, I should have walked the reader through it too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I see where you're coming from on that.
No, I think you to add on to that, like I think you have like such awesome information here. But I think like as you've kind of explained her to us a little more, like her anxiety, like what you like the accommodation. I think those are so awesome. But if you could maybe expand on those a little bit, like when she is having a lot of anxiety, do you hug her? Do you give her a break? What does that break look like? Is it a walking out of the classroom, taking a breath of air, or is it like going into holding a stress ball or something? I think it's like really awesome. But I was like, if she was in my classroom and she was having that, like in one of those situations, what would I need to do for her to support her? In accommodations, like what specifically, like is you super, like kind of what Slomo was saying is like unique to her as far as like, does she need a hug? Does she need like to walk away? Does she need a breath of fresh air? Like, what are those little things, those little unique things about her that like we would be able to be like, oh, I know what to do right at this instant?
Okay. She is a quirky little thing, so
I feel like I've seen her in some of your videos.
Yeah, she is a total goofball. I'm like, what would you do? What would you do for her? And she's such a character. She's like, she walks up and will just pet people's face and say, "I cherish you," and then walk away. I'm like, are you serious? So she's half the reason that everybody is giggling in all of my videos, because she says these totally off the wall things.
Hey, giggling's good. That's okay.
Yeah.
We want that in your video.
She like will walk up and whisper in your ear and she'll just say peanut, cashew, or something, and then just walk away. She's so, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So
great.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, and I think even if she doesn't have like major things, I think even just making that clear, like, hey, she can self-regulate, like that, maybe that's like her mode of like self-regulating. But just I feel like that's like such awesome information, and like makes her so special, like that she is silly, and that maybe that's her way of coping with that type of stress or something. I think that's cool.
Saying that, I see it. Like she does. I'm trying to think. Today she was stressed and she came up and reached over and just smelled my arm. I'm like, what are you doing? Go to work. So, and then she just went over and started to do her work.
That's funny.
So, hey, well, I will definitely add those because I think that they are super important and it makes more sense to have those in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think you have like so many like really good points of like what she's doing, but like, I definitely think that let's take it to the next level, like super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, you two said it all, so I have nothing else to say. You said it all.
Okay. So should we move on?
Yeah, Shlomo, you're next.
Okay.
I'm just the conductor over here.
Fair enough.
I
have
really
to say, Shlomo, like.
Oh, sorry. You can go.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the colors, they're so bright and friendly, and it immediately puts you at ease to look at even just the first page of that. It's very comforting.
Yeah, I came across that PowerPoint template when I was putting together something for a summer semester, and I've gotten some mileage out of it. It's worked really well for a number of things, and so I kind of turned to it for this.
Did you just download it off of a website, or?
Yeah, it's like off of the Microsoft website, and
Oh, okay.
actually, so I just kind of went and just like looked for other templates, and there's like about not really a whole lot. There's maybe like 40 odd ones that are on there, and it was one of them. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I just downloaded it, and just
Nice.
I've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. So
Yeah. I love the pictures too. I love how you can see him involved in every single thing he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes you feel like you're part of it, like you're there with him, like experiencing the action. I think it's really cool. Like all your action shots.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Our PSRs do well. One of them takes a lot of, just likes to do a lot of pictures, and then we do like photo albums for the class and stuff like that. So a couple of those I did, and a couple of them she did. Some of them are from last year, but just kind of showcasing the kinds of things that he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of stuck to it's kind of like what I outlined before, just like a very basic level of like what he's accomplished so far, and what he's still working on, and what we're working on with him, just giving that kind of information. Like Sarah said, if this kid were to show up, what would I want him? And so just kind of looking from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got everything. I think that all of the components are there. It's easy to understand. I think it's really good.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool that he likes to fold origami. Like you don't see that very often. So that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah.
I do that with my first day of class, with every class. So I love origami. So
yeah, you can get kind of stuck in some of the directions. Some of them can get a little complicated for him, but he likes trying, and he likes the end product. So
yeah, I really love the format. I really like that. It was like, I like the consistency of each page, that it was like, here's this step, this step, this step. I like the consistency of it. One thing I kind of questioned about, and maybe it's just like my early childhood brain, but I was like, where is he at? I wanted to know social emotional. Like I saw behavior, but like what about peers and like social interaction? That was one thing I was like, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just me, because that's like all we really focus on, I think, in early childhood is like, well, not all, but we really focus a lot on early like social emotional skills. And so that was one thing I was like, what is he like in peer situations? Like not just off task behavior, but maybe when like some of those like life skills, I guess, in the social situations, where is he at there? Was just one thing I was like interested in like learning about him. I was like, I would like to know that.
Okay.
Right.
You come up with something for that. I mean, it was kind of addressed a little bit in the living skills, just his like communication strengths and weaknesses is kind of where that would fall in there. But I mean, we could certainly describe that a little bit in more detail.
Well, and I don't necessarily.
I was also kind of thinking of doing like with what Chloe did with the separate slides for like the chores and skills that he can do for that. I was kind of considering doing something like that as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's necessary or not. Probably not.
I think the flow is good.
I think it's really good. Just one question. That was one thing I was like, and not that I necessarily need to know that, but that's just something I always like to think about, especially just in my field. That's one thing we're like always working on as a child. Going to be able to talk to friends? Are they going to be able to like interact? Or are they going to scream and fight, bite, hit? Like one of those things. Where I think you talked a lot about behaviors, but that was just one thing I was like wondering about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I mean that is a whole other aspect of behavior. It's one thing, you know, with like the classroom and the teachers, but then, you know, with peers is, you know, a different kettle of fish.
Yes.
Yeah, but overall, I think it looks awesome. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
All right.
Last but not least.
My turn. On mine, like I wasn't sure if I had like too much information. Like, is there such a thing? I felt like I had a lot going on. So I'll let you
I
guys.
don't think so.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I feel like you had like a lot of slides, but I didn't feel like it was overdone on content. Like I feel like, you know, some people just like jam and like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs into a slide.
Yeah.
I feel like you like
Right.
have the right amount of information per slide so that it's like you don't feel overwhelmed by reading a book, but you also can like it's enough to like stay engaged and be informed, but not like you're not reading a book.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. Moving.
I think you also have the advantage of it, you know, since yours was the one that was up first, it was like, oh, okay. You know, it was kind of like set, you know, where I think we all should be. Kind of just because I guess that was the first other one besides mine that I saw. So, but no, I think the on it was fine, and like Sarah said, I think it was really well laid out. So,
Okay.
I agree. It's silly, but I like the font. I like.
good one.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm always entertained by your pictures and your visual supports you have for all of your lessons and stuff. I'm like, where do you find this stuff?
Good old Google.
Yeah, I feel like it was really well laid out. Like I feel like I definitely would be able to support him if he came into my classroom. You know, I think that's one of those I feel like reading an IP is so wonky, and after learning about the digital portfolio, I'm like, why doesn't everybody do this? This is so much easier to understand.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like you definitely give a lot of stuff, and I feel like, I mean, for me too, as far as like teaching, I feel, and I think just maybe, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel so strongly about like establishing the relationship first. Like, how am I going to be able to connect with a student on a social level where they can trust me? Like, do I need to bring up comic books? Do I need to bring up like, you know, playing basketball? What do they love that I can be able to like and connect with them so that we can start building that relationship? And I feel like you've provided a lot of things where if he came in my classroom, I could be like, hey, like, you know, like I know you really like this, and like get that conversation going so you can start building that relationship. And then, you know, and start building that. So I think it's all done, but I just like, that's one thing I've just really loved about these portfolios. I'm like, I want to know these things so I can try to connect with the student on a personal level before I start being like, okay, now we're going to do this, this, and this. Like,
Yep.
let's build that relationship first so that you can trust me to know that I can help you get there.
Yep. Totally.
Sorry, my bulldogs.
You're what?
I have bulldogs, and they're very.
I love bulldogs.
Oh, I love my bulldogs, but oh my gosh.
Not to get off topic, but I had to say that. So okay.
Like I like the pictures and everything you're using, and I love that you go into how he is outside of the classroom with the buses and the McDonald's, and you tie in, you know, real world activities.
Yeah.
Academic based. I love that. So.
Yeah. I'm just flipping back through it again. I think that's really helpful. I also really like that you included like the sleep situation because I truly believe in like children having their basic needs met and some of those basic food, eating, sleeping, those types of things. And it's so important to be able to like identify those things. And sometimes it takes, you know, a couple of weeks to figure out like what is happening, why is this child acting this way. So you already kind of know some of those baser needs that aren't being met, like, oh, he's exhausted, that's why this is happening, instead of waiting for the 3 weeks of, you know, challenging behaviors and pulling your hair to figure that out, to have be able to know what to look for and identify those things and really help support him.
Yeah, I think like almost every morning he'll come in, he'll yawn, he'll put his head down. I ask him what time he went to bed, how much sleep did he really get, was he playing video games, and he's usually pretty honest with me. So then I know kind of like how the day is going to go based off his sleep pattern. So I always try to get that out of the way just so I know myself how I think he's going to do that day. Like, if you got 5 hours of sleep, you're probably going to be pretty grumpy today. So
I feel like I have to do it with my own kids. So
yeah.
I wish someone would ask me how many hours of sleep I got.
I know. Teachers need to be asked that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could stay up till 3 playing games and have somebody make, you know, exceptions.
Be pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I don't know if I have really anything to add. I think it was really well done. I think it's the right amount of support and information.
I
Cool.
agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Was this one just the 30 minutes as well? I totally feel like you guys know a lot more about all this stuff than I do, and it's crazy. Just how thin do you know what I mean? How much you have to do as a teacher, as a special education teacher. You have to know, and it's very like humbling and empowering to see everybody put these together, because I'm like, oh, you know, I you know, you make yours and you're like, all right, that'll do. I think that's all right. And then you see everybody else's and you're like, holy crap. I need to go put more stuff in. So
well, it's kind of
really
fun to
awesome.
like just take ideas from each of yours, like, oh, that little part's good, or that little part's good. I never thought of that. So
right.
Yeah.
This was good, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why these Google Hangouts are so beneficial. Like, I have felt so much more successful in this program of like knowing what I know and knowing what I don't know, because it's nice to know that I'm not alone. Like, I feel like there's so many times where I'm like, I have no clue. I'm just typing this up and I hope that I'm on the right track. And so for us to be able to come together and be like, yeah, I definitely didn't know that I was on like a complete opposite direction for that, but I'm glad that I can talk to everyone and like loop back in, or to be validated. Like that, I don't know. I've seen some people complaining about the Google Hangouts a little bit, but I've just found them extremely beneficial to be validated in the fact of like, yeah, we all don't know, or yeah, we all do know, or please tell me what you know so I can figure this out.
Exactly.
Right. And to make the connections, because if I had an early childhood question, because I work with kids that are from 3 to 21. And so I don't get to be specific on anything, and I feel really out of my league. I feel like at each age level I could guys and say, what do you think? And I feel like I'm somebody who's a specialist in each one. And so I love that. The connections are amazing. So, and perspective. So
definitely.
Yeah, because I mean, you would think if it was like a regular like classroom situation, you know, there'd be classmates that you could have these discussions with, but since we're online, this is what we have.
Definitely. Well, and I feel like you always have like a professor, which obviously we can email the professor and ask them, but I kind of, at least I feel like a nuisance when I'm like, is this the right way to do it? When I'm like, I would just ask them, or I would look at my peers and be like, hey, do we got this figured out? So I think it's beneficial. Super awesome. And also, I'm excited when we all graduate, we're all going to know each other. We're going to be able to say,
right.
Totally.
Right.
My husband just graduated from his master's program that was online, and he knew nobody at the entire school. It was the first time he'd been to campus and knew nobody. And I was like, that isn't going to be my story.
Right.
Oh, that's sad.
Right.
Yeah.
You're okay. Dog is now trying to get my 11-year-old to fight with him. So.
Oh goodness.
Sorry for the extra noise, guys.
That's all right.
So.
You guys have any final thoughts? I think we covered it pretty thoroughly.
I think we covered it. It feels very refreshing to get to see everything and to have everybody kind of look over your work and say, you know, with kindness, say, these are the things that I think you could change or fix that would make it better. And I think it's great to have that before you turn something in for a final.
Me too.
Grade. So, yeah.
I was going to ask,
that's all I would add.
did anybody make any like major edits from their first one that they turned in to now? Like, were there any major changes you guys made?
I added 2 slides to mine. One for the anxiety to kind of look at her stuff a little more in depth, and then I added one to reading as to like what the supports look like. So that was a suggestion when I turned it in. That was a suggestion that he made was this, but this could make it a lot better. And so I added those. Looked at it, I'm like, well, how did I even manage to do that without it? So
yeah, I made some. I didn't like drastically redo anything with mine. I had a slide in there for speech that I took out because he didn't have a speech goal on his IEP anymore. He kind of graduated out of that. So I took that one out. I didn't have a lot of data for his communication goal when I did the draft because we were right in the process. Well, we were kind of the reason why I picked the kid that I did is we didn't really like his eligibility. We didn't feel that it was accurate, and he was transferring from 5th grade to middle school. So this would be the IEP that he would take with him to middle school. So we just redid the IEP and the eligibility at the same time so that we would have an accurate picture, and so that when he went on to middle school, everything would reflect where he actually was. So there's a lot of data that I didn't have when I did my rough draft. So I kind of like updated the communication goals, and I had some more input from his mom about some of his past history and what living skills he had. So just like some tweaks like that I did, and that was about it. I'd say it's probably like at least like 80% the first thing that I did. And that was kind of, I forgot, it was kind of like one comment that I had just about this whole process is that, digital portfolios, it really kind of struck me how, you have just like these like 12, 14, 20 slides or whatever to put in. But I mean, there's really like a lot of thought and effort behind what goes into each slide. I mean, it's really kind of condensed.
For mine, I didn't really change anything. I just had a phone conversation with his mom, and she mentioned like the Special Olympics bowling that he just started. So I thought that was something, because he's not, so my student, he has autism, so he doesn't have any friends, and that's something we're trying to work on. His social communicating, not being so close to peers when he's talking, not blurting out. So I wanted to ask her more about the bowling and how that's going. But since he just started, I can only do a little bit, but I really want to see like if he will start to make friends. So I hope I can add that eventually to his portfolio, because that's what he's really working on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. That's good. I didn't make edits to I don't currently have the team anymore in my classroom. She's moved on, already transitioned. She transitioned in October. So I don't have her anymore, but she's still in our program, so I can still talk to her teachers now and get information. But I didn't really make very many changes, and I didn't know if I should be making more changes or adding more things or taking things away based off of. We still see her parents all the time in our program and stuff, but just didn't know if there's any major changes that maybe the professor was looking for in this final submission or not. So.
I was just basing mine on like
Yeah.
the comments and the grade I got before
Right.
to see like what I needed to change. So.
And I think this is also kind of like a hard thing to do, like a different, like rough draft, like final draft. And it's not like a paper where you can, just kind of
Right.
skeleton it out, and then, flesh out the details. I mean, you kind of almost have to work backwards. Like you already have to have all of that. And then you're paring it back from all of that. So, if you really didn't have the information going in, then there really isn't a whole lot to like add or refine from that point. So
Right.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Cool.
And I think kind of the feedback that I've gotten from Jeremy is just that he's just really kind of looking at work, really considering the topic and the project, and just that we're making that application. Did we take what this is supposed to be and apply it to our situation? It doesn't necessarily have to be like the one that the example but that he provided, but are we thinking about what he wants us to think about?
Yeah, that's good to know. I felt like when I first did this, I was just like crossing my fingers that I was on the right track, especially for my age group, because whenever I try to talk to anybody about it, they're like, that's so silly, that's not something you should do. And when I interviewed the students' parents, they were like, they told me about when she transitioned, her first transition out of my classroom and into the public school, and how overwhelmingly challenging that was for the teachers, for the parents, for the student. And I just thought, why aren't we doing this? I feel like it's such an emotional attachment, such a social, like an emotional thing to move on. It's such a hard thing to do. And so I really took it, like I just learned so much from it and thought it was so awesome, but definitely was hard because I was like, it's not like we're working on job skills and we're not working on like different things. So
Right.
It was a little bit hard to make sure I was on the right track with it. So, but yeah, it's working through the process. It's been so awesome. And now I'm telling everybody in my school, like, we need to do this. And I'm sure they're like, all done. But I think it's so cool. And I just think that how awesome would it be for teachers if we're really getting stuff like this in our classroom? Like, I'm like, I want this on every student. That way I can help them. Like, this is great. It's real life. It's real practical information. Make those connections right away.
Well, and when
Definitely.
you're sending out, like at the beginning of the year, when you send out copies of like the accommodations and the, things like that, this would be so much better than that for the teachers to have portfolios on the students before it starts would be so much better than just to have the accommodations and.
Definitely.
So.
Cool.
All my teachers are on board.
Well, I don't have anything else. I think I shared everything, and I appreciate your guys' input and combos. I love these conversations. I love these Google Hangouts.
Yeah, these have been really helpful. Oh. Bye, Hillary. All right. You guys good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, I'll submit this right now.
Okay.
Cool. Well, y'all have a good night.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye,
right.
guys.
Bye.
See ya.